listening to Tapped In, Buncombe County's half hour to empower on WRES 100.7 FM in Asheville. Listen up and get tapped into local important resources, information, and topics. Learn more about the topics of today's show at buncombecounty.org. Okay, it's time to get tapped in.
Hello. And if you are hearing my voice right now, you know that it is time to get tapped in. I am Zakia Bell Rogers.
And I'm Leonard Jones.
And Leonard and I come to you from Buncombe County Communication and Public Engagement Team, where the heroes wear capes.
Yeah, and so today we have a show just to give an update to the community. We know it has been 6 months since Tropical Storm hit our area very hard, and we are here to give you an update on a lot of the progress that's been made, also some of the work that must continue to done, and also just show appreciation to our community who stepped up and really showed out to help their neighbors. And so today we have Rachael Sawyer, whose normal role is strategic partnerships with Buncombe County, so working with a lot of our community partners, but also in the aftermath of Helene, Rachael also is the recovery lead, which is in our emergency operations center. So dealing with some of the long-term recovery in our focus areas. So we are here and she's going to give us some updates from that. So welcome, Rachael.
Hello. Thank you for having me.
Yes, we're so excited. So before we get started, can you tell the folks who they're talking to? Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Sure. So Leonard introduced me. My name is Rachael, and I work at Buncombe County Government, where I've been for, I think, coming up on 12 years.
Well, congratulations.
Yeah.
Thank you. I've learned a term from the FEMA friends that I've made over the past few months, which is steady state. So my steady state role is strategic partnerships, which is sort of a grants and funding office for the county. So we help our departments go after grants for their work, and then we also provide funding to our community partners. And since Helene, lots of us are working in different roles, wearing different hats. In those early days right after the storm, we were all called into service doing various things. I spent some time working on donations and helping work on the warehouse that we had, collecting items and getting them out to our neighbors. But since about mid-October, I've been serving as recovery lead.
Wow. Well, thank you so much. I know I've put in a lot of countless hours and have lost a lot of sleep, but now we're here at 6 months. And
6 months.
Yes. And we're in our 6 months. The 6 months date was last week. And so we're looking behind so that we can appreciate what's in front of us right now to our community. And I know sometimes it's very hard to see the change when you're in the middle of it, but I want everybody who's listening to step back, sit down, and take a deep breath, and let's jump into this. Rachael, what is the number one thing that you want to talk about that we actually did in the beginning?
It was really fun to sit down and think back and contemplate what it was like in those early days and in those early weeks. There's been so many different chapters. Thinking back in those very early days, Buncombe County was in rescue mode. We had people come from 38 different states in what they call mutual aid, and they were out. We had 18 search and rescue teams doing swift water and all kinds of various efforts to just get out there and literally save lives. Then we were in that period of time where we didn't have power, we didn't have water, and we were all focused on trying to make sure that people could travel around on the roads and get the services and support and help they need. And that was a really cool time because we saw a lot of what, how would I describe it? Like organic, a lot of organic help.
Neighbors helping neighbors.
That's right. The Register of Deeds had a family support center, and all of those volunteers were doing searches because we couldn't even send texts and make calls, and so it was hard to know who was accounted for and who was okay.
And you said we were without water and lights. I don't think I've been without water or I've been without lights. this was the first time that I can say I was without both. Even in the ice storm that I had when I was growing up, we had water. We didn't have lights. And then when it snowed, again, we didn't have water, but we had lights because our pipes froze. But being without both, it's like, you know how people say, oh, if you had to lose a sense, which one would you want to lose? None.
And we also, just to piggyback, to add on top of that, we also got to realize we was out of cell service.
Yes.
Like it was, there were weak spots around the county in which we were like struggling just to connect with each other. And just like Rachel, you said, it's been that organic community bottom root. So we definitely want to send a big shout out to everyone. And it's one of those times, like, I know in this new age, we often don't know our neighbors, but we got out to meet our neighbors very personally. There was a lot of cookouts going on, a lot of people just helping each other out. So as I say, on this show, as we look at 6 months, we do tremendously want to send shout outs to all the churches that was on every corner that was helping people, as well as the people that came into our neighborhoods, as well as even the youth was out helping people. So that was a great thing that we're like just to acknowledge that we saw y'all. We saw the people out there helping their neighbors. World
Food Kitchen Center or World Central World Food. What is it?
Yes, it's World Central Kitchen.
World Central Kitchen.
I heard their name again this week because of the wildfires.
Yes.
They were out supporting and feeding our first responders.
Yeah, they was making hot meals all day, daily, and sending it everywhere.
And I appreciate that so much, especially when we were in the field. And there were no fast food restaurants, and so we ate with everybody else a lot of times, and we got to meet them in the nights. They had their most amazing cookies. And so the thing is, it was so nice to see a part of our community that I've never seen before. There were people. Even though we were in such a tough space, I think people were just happy to see people had survived.
Yeah.
It didn't matter if they knew you or not. They were just happy to know that you were okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so we were out water. How much water did we end up distributing?
Well, we were sourcing water that could be available for drinking, but also water for the other tasks in the household, like flushing.
Yeah.
People were getting really creative, going to ponds and pools and all kinds of thoughtful and creative ways to get water. Buncombe County government ourselves distributed almost 800,000 gallons of water between those two types in the first 6 weeks of those water outages. I wanted to go back to something you said a moment ago, Leonard, about the cell service and the power outage. People had identified and were sharing through word of mouth where the spots were that people could get a signal and send a text. Remember, we'd get there and then multiple copies of the same texts would all rush in when we hit the spot.
Yes.
And then in terms of power, the office I work in is downtown. And we were in an area that we got power sooner than some of the other parts of the city and county, and we ran an extension cord out the door, and people were plugging their phones in, coming by and standing in the parking lot to get a little bit of juice for their phone. And that was a really memorable experience. We're going to talk later about looking ahead. Into recovery, and one of the ideas people talk about is resilience hubs.
Yes.
What buildings do we have that might serve as a gym or community center or library throughout the year that we can physically build up so they've got energy independence? Maybe it's got solar, maybe it's got batteries, and there's a way for people to come and take care of some of those basic needs like flushing the toilet and plugging in your cell phone.
Yes.
I know, and even as a community, we learn new words. Potable water, you learn turbidity, you learn all these new terms. Then you also found out you may be paying wood and water, but actually on the actual water, city water dish.
We learned about all the reservoirs,
And boiling water at the right temperature, that's not it. Keep going. It was really, it was very educational in the midst of everything as well. And I look at our staff, and you see them, and we've all been in it in the 6 months, and they're talking about it's like we're breathing more. Because you remember those first few days, I don't think anybody was doing any like deep breathing. We were just like taking short breaths and just going.
Yeah.
But I see us like slowing down and saying, okay, we're out of the stacks of emergency. Now we have like spaces of emergency. Not actually emergency, but spaces of task. Now, how are we able to tackle this? So now we're able to start taking care of ourselves as well. So, but yes,
the little chapters of response or recovery are lasting a little longer.
Yeah.
We can pick our heads up where we've been just looking down to take the next step in front of us, and we can look a little bit further out into the horizon now.
Yeah.
So how have you been taking care of yourself? Like,
That's a thoughtful question.
Yes, because we always want to make sure that we let our audience know to remember take care of themselves. So we always like to ask the people, how are you taking care of yourself, so they can get some tips as well.
Oh, that's thoughtful. Thank you. You know what? Personally, one of my goals has to be to focus on water. We were just talking about water, making sure that I'm drinking water. It also gets me getting up out of my seat regularly and walking down the hall. It's easy for me in the kind of job I have to just like go from one computer meeting to another computer meeting and stay in my chair. But I got to remember I'm a human person with a body. So drinking my water and getting up and moving. And you know what, for me, it changes everything now that the weather is starting to turn.
Yes.
I know. Longer days, love it.
Yes. Yeah, because when we were coming home from work, it was dark.
It was dark and it was cold. A lot of people lost their housing and they were looking for other options, and it was so cold outside. And so that made it really tricky to figure out, well, how could a temporary housing unit also be warm enough when it's 19 degrees? So everything just feels better now that spring is here.
And now that spring is here, it's just one of those things. I know we all kind of looking at what are some of the milestones that happened over the 6 months that we just like to inform community about.
Well, if we talk about housing, I just mentioned that a moment ago. When we think about how big of a storm this was, FEMA calls it level 1. But what does that mean? That's the biggest classification.
Wow.
I've also heard that this is the biggest storm in North Carolina history. But like, how can we measure how big that impact was? Housing damage is one of the ways that they look at it in terms of disaster impacts. And we had more than 8% of Buncombe County's total housing stock get impacted in one way or another.
Wow.
Hundreds of houses were completely destroyed. We've seen the pictures or lived in neighborhoods and observed where houses were destroyed in place, or maybe houses even washed down the river. It was 365 that are confirmed as of now, completely destroyed homes, with hundreds more having major damage, and then many thousands that needed repairs as a result of the storm. And the other tidbit I'll offer in the way of a statistic there is that our damage here in Buncombe County represents 33%, a third of the disaster, in pretty much any way you can measure it. Amount of documented damage to housing is one of the ways to measure it. Another one is how much financial assistance through FEMA has gone out through what they call IA, which is individual assistance. That's the one that some people got $750 for special needs. Some people got help paying for transportation or rental assistance or what have you. Our numbers are about 130 million so far for people in Buncombe County, and that's roughly a third of all North Carolina Helene assistance. So this is certainly one of the epicenters. It was definitely a regional impact, and it was definitely concentrated in Buncombe.
And I think a lot of people, they don't understand, like they think Asheville, but when we say Buncombe County, and I know my family, and they were like, how did it flood there? I said, you do know we have Swananoa River, and then we have French Broad River. We have 2 huge water systems. Then we have 1,000 creeks.
Mm.
I said, then we have 1,000,000 mountain peaks and shores and all
Creeks
these
and
things.
branches.
Yeah, creeks and branches.
Yeah.
And so, and I said, and I think what the people don't understand is that the rain came early,
It did.
and it came forcefully. Because Leonard and I, we were out and that Wednesday,
Yeah.
and the rain. You know how like the people say sheets of rain. This was blankets of rain.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was so bad that I actually hit something, and it took a chunk out of my tire because I couldn't see, and I really shouldn't have been driving after that. I should have just parked and waited for it to lighten up. But I'm glad I didn't, because I'm gonna tell you why. I was going across the Swarnoa River road, and the DOT guy I was the last one he let across because the road was starting to flood then, and that was Wednesday at 8:00.
Yeah, I had a similar experience where I was going to try to meet a friend that evening before the storm,
Yeah.
and I got in the car to leave work and called her and said, "I'm going straight home.
Yeah.
We better not try to meet up
Yeah.
on an evening like this."
Yeah, well, I wish somebody would have told me not to, because tires are not cheap after Helene.
So Helene wasn't just water. That's
No.
another part of
No.
it. This was a major wind event. The amount of forest that we lost, I've heard different numbers, so I'm hesitant to give a specific percent, but
I think I heard 15%. What did you hear? 15%.
I heard 15 for Buncombe County.
County.
yeah,
Yeah.
right. It
region.
varies
Yeah.
by region. That sounds about right. And landslides. There were over 1,000 different
Wow.
landslides that occurred in the county, with 400 that damaged roads or structures. And speaking of roads, also North Carolina and Buncombe County are kind of unique in terms of the private roads and private bridges we have. A lot of our infrastructure is North Carolina DOT, and they've done an amazing job. We're
Yes.
the city of Asheville, or town, that has responsibility for roads. They've done a great job getting like I-40 opened quickly and I-26 going into Tennessee. But those private roads, there's still a lot of houses that don't have
Access,
reliable
yeah.
access to their, across the creek, over the bridge to their home. Or-
We've seen some very creative bridges, homemade bridges. So, yeah.
Yeah, especially out in Barnersville and Fairview area of the county. As you drove down, like in the immediate aftermath, as you drive through those neighborhoods, helping bring in resources out there, you could just see so many people that was just, they're just feet away from the street, but the whole bridge is washed out. So I think being in Asheville, we kind of forget those elements to our community, where like your main drive is a bridge and it gets washed out. And the amazing thing, not amazing, but the thing that just had you scratching your head is like going out there now to see how low those creeks and branches naturally run, to see the amount of land and reconfiguration of the landscape that the storm brought with the water and the force that we had. So Rachel, I heard you talk about a wind event. So I know everybody done seen all the trees down. I literally described from my own neighborhood, you either had a tree in your yard or a tree on your house. And it was literally almost like every house. And I am actually sort of in I'm in Asheville, but I'm close, going towards Woodford on the west side, towards Alexander. And so we see all the trees, we see all the trucks being out. I know personally for myself, I did the private property debris removal. They helped me remove one of my trees. So community, keep that in mind, that if you have trees or debris that needs to be removed off your property, the deadline for that is April the 15th. So we really want to get that out to the community. But just speaking personally for myself, it was a great help to get a tree. They actually cut down another tree that kind of split in my yard. So it's been very helpful for me and my family as we do the cleanup. Can you give us some numbers around how much debris has actually cleaned up? Or do you even know how much debris that they counted initially that we had before they started cleaning up?
Debris has been a really fascinating part of
Yes.
the post-storm.
Yes.
This will be work that is pretty much wrapped up, if everything stays on deadline, by this summer, by the end of June. Hopefully all the different debris missions will be complete.
Yes.
We've had a real learning opportunity about how this works. It started out where Buncombe County was going to contract with a provider directly, one of those pre-positioned contracts, and that was good because they could hit the ground and start collecting debris immediately. We ended up working with our North Carolina state government, the emergency management there, who put in a request to the federal government, so FEMA, who then tasked another federal level agency, the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers. Some people call them USACE. USACE. Anyway,
All these acronyms.
that's right. And then the Corps then contracted it out to these various providers, the ones with all the cool trucks and the equipment, the grappling hooks, and the equipment that they put in the rivers, which uses like the correct environmentally friendly fuels and lets the pressure out of their tires so that it can go in the waterways.
Wow,
and,
I didn't know that.
Other steps in that process, like getting approval from environmental reviews through Environmental Protection Agency, and there's a lot that goes into launching a mission of this scale, and they give us reports every week about how many cubic yards of debris have been collected, and it's pushing 1.5 million cubic yards at this point on our little tracker. But then there's other types of debris. I mentioned waterways. That was a special type of debris collection. There's also the private property debris removal program that you mentioned, where people can apply and actually sign a right of entry so that the contractor can come on your property and collect either things on the ground or, like you said, things that are creating a threat, a hanging or leaning tree they're able to remove. And then, like collection, we've seen these containers and vehicles that were washed from one place to another.
Those were scary to see in the water.
The box truck that someone decorated with holiday lights.
Oh yeah, that was a
I was sad to see that one leave. Like I was like, oh, they could have like got that last. They was like, we don't care about your feelings of kids.
We're trying to clean this up. He got a deadline.
And this whole process, they tag it and they tow it, and then they contact the owner, and it's really been fascinating to watch.
I know Leonard and I will get in the car about every so often, and we'll pick an area that we're going to really look at. And we went down by the River Arts District area, and what is the name of that park?
French Broad River Park.
Yeah, the French Broad River Park, which is now beachfront property, and because it is brown and there are no trees. And the dirt looks like sand now, and it is terrible. And so we're looking at that. And so what people have to understand, because I remember driving down there and seeing so much paper and like little pieces of stuff just wrapped into the trees or wrapped around the banks of the river. And they've cleaned that up. Like, this is a huge process.
Our community really wants to get back into the parks. The property you're talking about is a City of Asheville park. Buncombe County's got some waterfront parks as well as a couple with.
Is Rec Park one of our waterfront?
That's the city.
Is that city? Oh, okay.
We've got Alexander River Park on the
Owen River
on Riverside Drive, etc., and then a couple with bodies of water. So Owen that's a great example. Owen Park out in Swannanoa had 2 ponds, and then the Swannanoa River ran behind them, and now those ponds aren't there anymore.
There's nothing there.
Charted a new course.
Wow.
So we were out there this week doing additional site inspections to try to figure out our options for going forward.
I was wondering, because I saw pictures of it. I haven't had I didn't want to go out there because somebody told me the ponds were gone. I was like, well, what about the ducks and the geese? And I was like, okay, so can we make a pond, or No, is that because I feel like we could make a pond, but that's just. Go ahead, April. I mean, Rachel.
I don't know if I'm the very best person to answer that. Maybe our Parks and Rec director Allison could come sometime and be a guest.
Yeah.
But I can tell you a little bit about the process parts of it.
Mm-hmm.
So we're in response mode still.
Mm-hmm.
We have one of those community care sites open in Swannanoa where
Yes.
people are still going every day and taking showers
Yes.
and doing laundry. That's the last remaining one. So
Yes.
most of our response efforts have switched over into recovery. Another one of those signals that we're still in response mode is the transitional sheltering assistance program. I saw the number today that 60 households are still Buncombe County households are still staying in a hotel through the TSA program. But that, while 60 is a big number, it's nothing compared to the over 5,000 that were in there early. I went back and shared that information to lead me towards something about the park, which is now that we are 6 months in, we're working on a recovery plan, and it's going to be based on projects. So what are the things the community believes are important? What are the priorities? What types of projects do people really want to see? Park redevelopment is one of those, but you and I were chatting earlier, Zakia, and you were sharing about the idea of not just things not looking exactly the same later. So would the members of the community that use that park like to see those ponds? A lot of people fished there. They were valuable in a lot of ways to people. What would it look like if it were a riverfront amenity? Walking trails are one of the things that people use Owen Park for. So really, we will need to set up these projects and then go through scenarios for each one and see what we have the funding to do and what the community is hoping for, and what can we build in so that we're better off in the future if another storm of this type were to come.
Oh yeah. It's so funny because you said if another storm of this type were ever to come. I think about all the times when people say, "Oh, that can't happen here. That won't happen here." Remember, tornadoes don't happen here, and you will hear people explain the night of and how they heard the wind, and how the wind sounded like it was howling. It was different than what they've ever heard before, and we had so much, debris after that. And it was such a multi-level storm. And so I think now with us in this 6 months, we're starting to reclaim some of our safety. Because I know a lot of us lost that. And being involved with Buncombe County with the recovery is also a great thing. And we have now switched over to .gov with our website, right, Leonard?
No, not yet.
Not yet.
You can still
So just our emails.
Yeah, just our email.
Just our email. Okay.
But even for a while, that was still, even if you go to the .org, it is still transition. As that come out, we haven't. That was just emails.
Just emails. Okay, so I was trying to get everybody out there. Do it. So we're still at .org, and so and the thing is, make sure you're staying abreast to all of those things that are happening. If there's a survey coming out, I know you're like, I don't want to do another survey. Please do this survey, because all voices are valuable, and you don't want us to make the decisions for you, because it's going to be a bunch of napping benches and things like that, because we just want to take naps and we're tired. So make sure you
I think you're speaking for yourself.
reading naps.
Zakia, where are you going?
I'm just saying. So please be active in the rebuilding of our community. We're about to wrap up. So Rachel, what do you want to leave our folks with?
I I want to echo what Leonard shared, which was a lot of gratitude. One of the things I've personally really appreciated is the relationships that I've gotten to form new or strengthen or work with people in different ways. And that fabric and that connection between us is one of the things that makes us strong and resilient as a community. When I think about recovery, I know that it's not a straight line. And so we want to kind of keep that in mind. We're going to take forward steps and backward steps. We're going to have moments where there's a lot of visible progress and moments where it's hard to see what's going on. We invite people to stay connected with us as a government, following along with Buncombe County in all of the different ways that we open for people to join with us, whether coming to a resource center or, like you said, doing a survey. But just stay in touch and cultivate those relationships and share the information.
Yeah. All right, Leonard.
And I'll just always just encourage, as Rachel has mentioned as well, send our gratitude. Me as a kid, as being part of the public engagement side of a communication, we see y'all. We see the work that you're doing, and we appreciate on behalf of the county to say, continue to do the work. Stay engaged with us. We are all in this together. So we need community, because community and private sector can do some stuff quicker than government, but we also need to just work in collaboration with government. So as we mentioned, we are now slowly kind of transitioning into recovery. So stay engaged with the county. You can go to engage.buncombecounty.org/Buncombe Recovers and find out where resources are. You can find out how you can give your input, because as we build back, we do need to have your voice at the table. We do realize things have changed from 6 months ago, and we need to grow together, no matter if you're out in Barnesville, Fairview, downtown Asheville, Sandy Mush, Candler. We need to hear everybody in 4 corners of this county so we can come back stronger after this storm. And we also want to announce that one of our resources, a new Helene Resource Center, will be opening on Monday, April the 14th. That's 8 a.m. and that is at 94 Cox Avenue. That is the old tax office. That is now becoming the new Helene Resource Center, where you can go find out resources around anything you need as we focus in on this recovery. So I want to share that information out, and that there is free parking. So come down there if you have any questions and need resources. And again, on behalf of the county, we just want to say thank you. We see all the work. We know that Good Morning America was here and highlighted just a fraction of our community, but on this radio show and on our podcast, we want to say we see all of y'all in all the work that you're doing. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Jones. And I am going to wrap this up. Often we hear the words together, community, united, working together, and all those things. But I want us all to remember, we can pick up one snowflake with one finger, but we can pick up a pile of snow with our hands. We should always try to work as a hand to work together to help us get things done quicker, not just quicker, but with sufficiency and things of that nature. If you don't lend your voice, if you don't lend your hand, then we're not going to have a true representation of our community. It is so important that we all stay abreast of what's going on. We all went through this together. And there are so many services out there: mental health, financial help, food assistance, and things of that nature. And as the sun comes out more and the days are longer, take care of yourself. Go outside, inhale the sweet air, and watch as the flowers prepare to bloom and things of that nature. But always remember this right here: we are one Buncombe, and together we're stronger. Together, we're able to climb the mountain and repair it as well. With that being said, you've been tapped in.
Thank you for listening to Tapped In, Buncombe County's half hour to empower, here on WRES 100.7 FM in Nashville. Learn more about today's topic at buncombecounty.org. Otherwise, stay tuned for more great episodes coming up.